A new conception of life has been emerging during the last 30 years or so, and that's what I'd like to talk about today. At the forefront of contemporary science, the universe is no longer seen as some kind of a machine composed of elementary building blocks. We have discovered that the material world ultimately is an inseparable network of relationships, that the planet as a whole is a living, self-regulating system. The view of the human body as a machine and of the mind as a separate entity has given way to a view that sees not only the brain, but also the immune system, the bodily tissues, and even each single cell as a living cognitive system. Evolution is no longer seen as a competitive struggle for existence, but rather as some kind of cooperative dance in which creativity and the constant emergence of novelty are the driving forces. And with a new emphasis on complexity, networks, and patterns of organization, a new science of qualities is now slowly emerging. During the last 30 years, I developed a synthesis of this new understanding of life, a conceptual framework that integrates 4 dimensions of life: the biological, the cognitive, the social, and the ecological dimension. I call my synthesis the systems view of life because it requires a new kind of thinking in terms of patterns, relationships, and context. And in science, this kind of thinking is known as systems thinking or systemic thinking. One of its most important insights is the recognition that networks are the basic pattern of organization of all living systems. Ecosystems are understood in terms of food webs, that is, networks of organisms. Organisms are networks of cells, and cells are networks of molecules. So the network is a pattern that is common to all life. Wherever we see life, we see networks. And indeed, at the very heart of the change of paradigms from the mechanistic to the systemic view of life, we find a fundamental change of metaphors, from seeing the world as a machine to understanding it as a network. That's really the gist of my synthesis. If you just want to remember this one sentence, it's the shift from seeing the world as a machine to understanding it as a network. Well, closer examination of these living networks has shown that their key characteristic is that they are self-generating. In a cell, for example, all the structures you see, the membranes, the DNA, the proteins, all these cellular structures are continually produced, repaired, and regenerated by the cellular network. Similarly, at the level of a multicellular organism, the bodily cells are continually regenerated and recycled by the metabolic network. So living networks continually create or recreate themselves by transforming or replacing their components. And in this way, they undergo continual structural changes while at the same time preserving their web-like pattern of organization. This coexistence of stability and change is indeed one of the key characteristics of life.